You know, if they're gonna continually insist that Master Chief not wear his helmet, I'm kind of annoyed that they just didn't give Pablo Schreiber his porn stash from Orange is the New Black. Would have been a very interesting interpretation of the Master Chief at the very least. Hello interwebs, I hope you're all doing well, and I am here to review the first 4 episodes, spoiler free I should add, of the second season of Halo. This feels creepy. I'm gonna put this down. Yeah, so I was actually sent screeners for the first 4 episodes of Halo Season 2, so the first half of this 8-episode season, and I'm going to give you my spoiler-free impressions of this show. That being said, I should quickly address the internet's reaction to Season 1 of Halo, and my thoughts on it, especially for those of you who either missed or don't remember my episode-by-episode reviews of Season 1 of Halo. Like many of my generation, I grew up playing Halo. I actually bought every Halo game when it first came out, even have the special editions of Halo 2 and 3. And I also have read a decent amount of the ancillary material, like a lot of the books, and I watched a few of the movies and things. So, you know, I'm not the biggest Halo fan, but I am decently embedded into the Halo lore and world. And my reaction to the first season of Halo, given that, was that it was a semi-decent science fiction series that I actually found had a few interesting themes and ideas, but ultimately was seemingly uninterested in the Halo of it all. The first season of Halo focused on brand new characters and worlds and situations that we had never seen in the Halo universe before, and also didn't even show the Halo rings or even that much of the Covenant human war that is like the backdrop for much of the Halo mythos, and was instead more focused on this narrative that was admittedly interesting surrounding the dehumanization of Master Chief and his fellow Spartan soldiers to make them the perfect military fighting machines. And that's a theme that is present within the Halo novels, most especially within the Halsey narrative that the show itself was mostly drawing from in the book The Fall of Reach. But it's not the main focus of Halo. The main focus of Halo, to my mind, is more about the glorification and chosen one-ness of figures like the Master Chief in a very militaristic society, as well as indictments of religion and religious fervor that we see mainly through the Covenant. So all about like this veneration and glorification of heroes and specific ideologies and how that can be incredibly damaging and even lead to things like vast genocides. And it tells it in a very operatic way. And what Halo Season 1 did was kind of put that stuff in the back burner, and again, more focused on this dehumanization through the military narrative, which isn't incompatible with the overall themes of Halo, but definitely seems like it's trying to do something completely different, and really just felt like the writers of the show were more interested in telling that story and just using the Halo aesthetic to be able to get people to come into it. Now, for me, I am someone who's more willing to accept a show on its own terms and sort of see what it's going to do and not be too upset about the expectations that I placed onto it as someone who likes the franchise. But certainly, especially if you know capital G gamers, there were many out there who were pissed off about that fact and were super angry about things like the Master Chief taking off his helmet, which is kind of going against the sort of glorification of heroes theme that you get in the larger Halo games. And then there was also the more, I find, pedantic and somewhat juvenile focus on oh, look, they have women, the sort of anti-woke, anti-SJW narratives that usually gloms on to things like this when, you know, fanboys don't get exactly what they expected from an adaptation. So while I do agree with a lot of the criticisms of the season, I generally find that it was, again, being shoved in some bullshit culture war narratives of like the feminists and women ruining our glorious old gamer nostalgia days. But in the end, I found Halo to be a fairly mid-science fiction series with some generally interesting ideas that ultimately was just uninterested, for the most part, in what Halo is, or at least more interested in a specific corner of Halo that I find interesting with the Fall of Reach book, like I mentioned before, but less interested in the more overt and direct themes of the Halo games proper. So I know that was a big preamble to talk about Season 2, but I think it's necessary because when I talk about Season 2, I need to kind of address that criticism and also speak to it because of what Season 2 is. Because watching these first 4 episodes of Season 2 so far, I have to say it is a vast improvement on season 1. I think that a lot of the storytelling missteps that season 1 took, especially with focusing on these like ancillary characters like Quan or McKee, who nobody cared about, Halo fan or not, are downplayed here in this season and really more focused on the Master Chief and the more interesting story that it had with him surrounding his dehumanization as a man in the military and someone seen as like a super soldier hero just to become a symbol for the military rather than being seen as an actual person. And I think that that's really great, and there are some amazing action set pieces that even more delve into like the Halo aesthetic and world that I found amazing. But that being said, if the thing that put you off from Halo was the fact that it was not really Halo, except for in name and some aesthetic only, this season is definitely not going to do anything for you. In fact, it may make you even more angry. Like, let me put it this way. The 4th episode of the season, again, I'm not going to do tons of spoilers, but the 4th episode of the season is called Reach. So many, if you're familiar with the Halo lore, will know that that is about the fall of Reach and the fact that the Covenant go and just try and destroy that planet. That is sort of like the direct moments preceding the first Halo game. This show depicts that, but the way that it gets to that and Master Chief's role in it is completely different than it is in the actual Halo lore and the book Fall of Reach. So much so that the entirety of the Battle of Reach, Master Chief isn't even wearing his armor. And in fact, there is a sequence where Master Chief stands in front of a group of Marines and says, "I don't need my armor, I am the Master Chief, and I can be your hero," or something along those lines. So the big battle of the Fall of Reach that many fans were wanting to see, like the Master Chief take on the Covenant, is done without the specific iconography of the Master Chief in that moment, which is wild as a choice to me, as someone who sees these people making an adaptation of Halo. But as someone who looks at the themes that this show is going for, about how Master Chief as a character is fighting to be seen as a full person, not just a tool to be used by the military and the ONI, fits perfectly within that theme. And that's what I really want to like focus in on here. If you are looking for decent science fiction with some like cool ideas and thoughts about like the militarization of science fiction and like directly like kind of almost anti-military discussion, this is actually really great. I think there's some really wonderful humanizing scenes to not only Master Chief, but the rest of his Silver Squad. Specifically Kai, who was such a big character in the first season, is done really well, but even some other characters in Silver Squad too get a lot more focus this time around that I really loved. And there's some really beautiful sequences of the members of Silver Squad coming into their own and trying to figure out what it means to be human, not just a military tool. And I find that to be fascinating. There's some arguments to be made that, again, there's the glorification of the military just through the visuals alone, like, oh, look, isn't this cool, that go against the military theme. That is a problem of really any anti-war war movies that you see throughout history. I mean, there's a famous saying that's like, you can't make an anti-war war movie because ultimately we'll still end up glorifying war, and that is definitely present here, but I do find a lot of the themes that this season is grappling with to be much better. There are still vestiges of some of the old plot lines from season 1, like the Quan storyline and the McKee storyline, but they are much more downplayed and only appear here and there, and thankfully don't take up as much airtime as they did in the first season, and feel more like the show just trying to like just bring along its loose ends that it needed to finalize because of the stuff it had set up in season 1, but smartly really more focuses in on the Master Chief. But again, that being said, the stuff that Halo fans would come to this for are almost non-existent in this season. Halsey gets a little bit of stuff to do. Cortana literally only appears in a single or maybe even only 2 scenes the entire first 4 episodes. And again, we only get a few moments with the Master Chief in his iconic armor, with most of the time him being spent out of the armor. That being said, I will say there are some of the coolest battle sequences that I have seen done in a science fiction TV show in this first 4 episodes. The first 12 minutes of season 2 and the first episode are fantastic, and I think are closest as this show gets to really capturing that creepy, operatic feel of the Halo games. Like the last moment before the opening credits of episode 1 really captured this like haunting vibe that I really wish the show, if it was going for a more Halo feel, had just continued throughout the series and really just keeping that operatic feel. But again, that would be somewhat different than what the show really is wanting to do, which is talk more about like the depersonalization of people like the Master Chief. And again, these themes aren't incompatible with what Halo as a franchise is all about. Again, those themes of like religion and hero glorification and the military, like they can work together, but those are just so secondary to what this show is kind of talking about. And there's a part of me that's hoping, given where this these first 4 episodes end, which sort of like brings us close, though not completely, to where the first game begins, I'm wondering if like all of this, the first season and a half, ends up being like a prequel setup to then what we will eventually hopefully get to, which is like a telling of the first game's story that will then bring those themes much more to the forefront and hopefully really pay off a lot of this setup and really actually do an adaptation of the Halo games that is more faithful that people would want. But it feels really, really weird to me, given that there is so much more stuff forward you could have done with going into Halo 2, 3, 4, to have spent like a season and a half, maybe even 2 seasons doing a sort of prequel to the stuff that people really, really wanted. Like it would have felt more natural to me to do like maybe a few episodes of prequel setup and then do the first Halo game and then just go from there. But it really just feels like this is like the first season and a half, maybe even the rest of season 2, I don't know where it goes in the last 4 episodes, is just all set up for what people really want to see. And then maybe the latter half of the season or season 3 will finally get to where all of us want to go, which is the actual titular Halo. And that's ultimately where I rest with this. If you are someone who is either not bothered by the fact that this is not a direct Halo adaptation, or are someone who's just looking for decent, above average science fiction. It's not like The Expanse or Battlestar Galactica or anything like that, but it is like above average science fiction. Then I would highly recommend this show to you. I think it's really interesting. It's got some great acting, some great themes, and some amazing standout set pieces that I think are really enjoyable to watch. But if you are someone who is huge into Halo and really has been just looking forward and finally hoping that we were going to get a Halo adaptation, and were really disappointed by not getting that in season 1 of Halo, then this season is not going to do it for you either, and may in fact just make you angrier at the whole thing. But ultimately, I do think this is an improvement upon season 1. I think season 2 is definitely better, so if you like season 1, then I think give season 2 a go. But that is my thoughts on Halo season 2, the first 4 episodes. Let me know what you think. Also, if this video does well, I may do episode by episode reviews of Halo like I did with season 1. So share this around if you liked this review or want more analysis, or give it a like and subscribe and all that jazz. But beyond all of that, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all, my friends, live long and prosper.